Christopher, a Wheat Ridge resident in District 1. I live on Gray Street. And professionally, I'm the Director of Development and Outreach for the nonprofit Bicycle Colorado. We work at the state level with agencies such as CDOT, State Patrol, Tourism Office, DOLA, on transportation policy that involves bicycling. And we also work extensively with state legislators to try to establish just a little bit of credibility about the organization. Organizations in DC that focus on state level activities recognize Bicycle Colorado as one of the top state advocacy organizations in the United States. And we just saw some of that with last week's announcement of the best bicycle states in the country, where Colorado is now ranked #2 in the nation. And then I'm joined by Ted Hyde from Live Well Wheat Ridge, whom you know and has done such amazing work here and is a certified planner and professional in the transportation and other areas. Rachel Holteen joins us as well. She's a Wheat Ridge resident. She's also a real estate developer, small, multi-use, relevant kinds of projects that bring retail, commercial, and residential to areas. And then Gil McCormick, that I think all of you know, which is a part of the Kiefel family that owns Wheat Ridge Cyclery. So thanks very much for your time, and I'm glad that each of us, or collectively, we've had a chance to give you a little insights into what we wanted to cover here. So as we move forward, we really have focused on the city's vision for 2025, and in particular, how the livability of a community is greatly impacted by its physical infrastructure, how friendly it is to bike and walk, and that has significant impact and economic benefits for communities. So here you see the vision that you know so very well. As you look at a beautiful city and community for families, one of the best bellwethers in any community is how many families you see out walking and bicycling and communing in communities. Livable communities have many people biking and walking, and we have room for improvement. Multimodal is noted in the second vision statement. Cars, bicycles, pedestrians, and transit. And it impacts our third vision as well. So realizing the vision. As I worked with other communities, we have a bicycle pedestrian master plan here in this city. A couple things. One, they often see to be very high cost factors. And what we're here and what we've put up here in realizing the vision is there's some very good ways to have a very low-cost, incremental approach, and we use the phrase low-hanging fruit, to pick projects that can greatly impact our community, the economics of our community, and the businesses of our community without significant cost. The concept also that you'll see in many communities in Colorado and around the country is that public works departments will look at, as standard operating procedure, all of their repaving projects, all of their transportation projects, and find all the right ways to accommodate all people, not just move cars, but move people, pedestrians, bikes, and cars safely. And often it's nothing more than paint and signage to address bicycles and pedestrians. So we do feel that there are some high value projects that the city can invest in for low costs. So the next slide emphasizes that we have the administrative structure in place already in our city with the comprehensive plan, with the bicycle master plan. Again, when the bicycle master plan was priced out, it was a multi-million-dollar endeavor. We're here to talk about some very small components of that. Oh, and of course, we do have the 2013 Northwest Subarea Plan that's being worked on as we speak. So with that, I'm going to transition to you, Ted.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Good. So just a real quick summary here, all of data from the 2012 community survey. Over 950 households here in Wheat Ridge completed it. They were asked specifically about the ease of bicycle travel here in the city, and this slide shows the results. I think most telling is that when 18 other jurisdictions were asked a similar question, in the overall rankings, Wheat Ridge came in second from the bottom. So I think it really says that there's definitely room for improvement when you talk about the ease of bicycle travel at the community level. So what is the need? We did a little age demographic research, and we have a large percentage of the population here in the city that is 17 or younger or 65 or older. You got a number of folks who have less access to a vehicle or perhaps don't have a vehicle at all. So thinking about how we are safely and efficiently moving these folks around the community. And it's in step with statewide data. You can see 29% of Colorado residents don't drive at all. So again, how are we efficiently and effectively helping folks move around Wheat Ridge who have less access to a vehicle? So where do we go from here? Scott touched on it, but we're specifically talking about the 2014 budget cycle that you'll all soon be discussing. But we are looking for the high impact, high value, low hanging fruit projects. We'll talk about one specifically, but really looking for, when we talk about very constrained capital improvement budgets, where does the best value lie? So Scott's going to come back up and walk you through some slides talking about the economics piece.
Bike to Work Day is coming up next month. A couple years ago, we were asked to host Governor Hickenlooper that day, and his communications director wanted some background information. We shared with him a CDOT study that indicated the economic impact in our state of bicycling is over $1 billion a year. He made me repeat that 3 times because it seemed incredulous to him, but a very valid and strong study. And Wheat Ridge has an opportunity to grow their piece of that pie for sure. You see Wheat Ridge Cyclery up here. We're all very proud of that business. Let me share some information. I work with executives from the 2 largest US-based bicycle companies that exist. One is Trek Bicycles that some of you have heard of. Gil, you brought an example. The other is out of California, Specialized. Our Wheat Ridge Cyclery is the largest single-store Specialized dealer in the entire country, and in the top 3 to 5 when it comes to Trek. This is a premier business that we have right here in our community. Gil shared some numbers with us. The average retail price of a bicycle sold at their business is $1,600. So you can, and I'm sure some of you have had time to look at the sales tax revenues that come from that business. It's a fabulous business built on a wonderful community, and we have an opportunity to drive more business there as well as in that Main Street sub-district. And perhaps some of you have stumbled on Right Coast when a slew of cruiser bikes have come by for pizza and beer during the summer. So some economic case studies. Portland, Oregon. Very unbicycle friendly 20 years ago. They made a concerted civic effort. Now they've measured the economic impact. Cyclists spend more money monthly at local businesses than people who arrive by cars. They go more often. They spend a little less each trip. When you aggregate it, cyclists are impacting those businesses at a stronger economic level than people in cars. 38th, for example, I'm a strong proponent of the pedestrian facilities and the bicycle facilities. Once we have someone travel there, however they get there, let's have them stick around. Let's have them go over from the bike shop to the pizza shop. Let's capture that traffic. And the slower we can move them there, the closer to those businesses, the better opportunity to get them to move in. And of course, that picture is wonderful because in the place that 2 customers or 1 customer in a car could come, with bicycle parking, you can have 10 to 20 customers arrive at your business. Memphis, Tennessee. In the 90s, I worked for FedEx and spent time each month in Memphis. It was one of the most unpedestrian, unbicycle-friendly communities. They started much like we have with temporary bike lanes, as you see on this slide. They've since gone permanent, and you see the wonderful business results that they've achieved and the associated tax revenues. A community in New York, some very telling numbers. Where they put in the current standards for bicycle, pedestrian, and car facilities, business grew almost 50%. In the neighboring streets that had no new development, you see the 3% figure. Shifting gears, one of the things that many of us would like to see our community attract is young families, young professionals. So what are those families and potential future residents of Wheat Ridge looking for? And what are we competing against in Denver, in Arvada, in Lakewood, in Golden, our neighboring communities? Well, they really are looking for very livable communities, mixed-use communities, communities that are safe to take their families biking and walking. They are driving significantly less, which was a surprise when I first saw that statistic. And in fact, our neighbor Denver in 2012 was the community in the United States that saw more than anywhere else the greatest number of young professionals, college age up to 34, with degrees moving for jobs. We have an opportunity to be a part of that, and Wheat Ridge can have its own unique version. So final slide here, a little hard to read. To the right is just east of Sheridan. To the south is below into Lakewood and Edgewater. To the west is just beyond Kipling, and then you can see just beyond the Wheat Ridge border to the north in Arvada. This is a 2-mile radius from our downtown Main Street subdistrict. 2 miles, the perfect distance to bicycle, and if you could hone it down to a half a mile or a mile. So we really have a core area where we can draw people to that particular business district and to other business areas as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to talk a bit about real estate and development.
I'm a little shorter than everyone tonight. I just wanted to share with you guys my perspective, which I think is keenly tuned into the people who are currently buying into Wheat Ridge and what the vision is of Wheat Ridge now and the direction that Wheat Ridge is going. My background is in real estate development. We were intricately involved with developing the Tennyson Street district. And my family made a choice to come to Wheat Ridge because we wanted a little more house, a little more land for a little less money. But we didn't want to lose access to all of the urban infrastructure that is so meaningful to our lifestyle. So that's my personal choice. But as a real estate agent, I represent a lot of families making similar choices. And they are coming from other communities that offer high walkability and bikeability infrastructure through their embedded commercial districts and investing in those commercial districts. When I inventory my clients, their number 1 or number 2 criteria, without exception, is access to walkability or bikeability for their lifestyle needs. And that includes both commercial needs and bike trails and parks. So I see that that is a huge investment that individuals are making, because they don't just buy homes, they buy communities. And Wheat Ridge as a community offers a lot of things that families are drawn to and individuals are drawn to. But I think that the vision of the direction that's going is really important to people who are making that choice to invest in a house in that community. I just can't overstate like the emphasis. I spend a lot of time with my clients. They're in my car. We're very intimate for a couple of weeks. And the questions that come up again and again and again, well, where can you walk to from here? What's the closest restaurant? Where's the coffee shop? You know, what is, because that's a meaningful lifestyle choice for my clients and for myself. And I think that that's something that Wheat Ridge has a lot of potential in and currently has a little bit to offer, but really has a lot that it could invest into to be a draw there. And I think increasing pedestrian and bicycle facilities for access to businesses is huge, and it's something people are looking for. The secondary aspect of that, and that's the next slide. Do I do it? Sorry, I'm not very technologically adept here. Okay, sorry. Oh, there we go. Perfect, okay. So, the second aspect of that is Colorado is a healthy state, and it's nationally recognized as such. And it's a little bit disappointing that we're losing some of our foothold as being recognized as a healthy, active community statewide. And the more choices that we can make that are easy for people to engage in, that are healthy and lifestyle oriented, the more we're going to be investing in our communities and creating a great return on our investment. The more we can create bicycle and pedestrian facilities, at the community conversation that I went to in the last week, there was the term 8 to 80 that came up. And Wheat Ridge is, I think, singularly one of the most 8 to 80 communities in the metropolitan area. And biking and walking really emphasizes that. And the more we can create those facilities, the healthier our community is, both from a physical aspect as well as from an economic aspect. So I would love to see us support that in every way that we can. So thank you.
Hi there. So we wanted to find out what our neighbors are up to. So we took a look at Golden, Arvada, Lakewood, and Denver, and there is some surprises there. They've all been pretty busy getting after cycling. They're all rated as bicycle-friendly communities by the League of American Bicyclists out of Washington, D.C. This organization ranks cities across our nation, and it goes bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So that was one surprise. Next, let's look at Golden. Golden has a complete streets ordinance, so whenever a resurfacing project happens, they cross-reference that and they put in bike ped facilities. They also have quite a bit of activity going on this year. Arvada, for the last 10 years, they put in over, 90 miles of on-street bike lanes. They've got bike detectors now, and they put a budget of $50,000 a year for bicycle improvements. They also have a part-time bicycle coordinator there. And let's see, they're adding a bicycle pedestrian wayfinding system so you can ride through Arvada and get to different places using their signs. And Lakewood. Lakewood has a bicycle master plan, and they've been putting in bike lanes and bike paths, and they have more plans for bike lanes and routes. And Denver has been really busy, lots of bike lanes and sharrows on their roads. They have a Heads Up program that the mayor launched in this last campaign in May of 2013. So they just said, hey, we need to get after pedestrian and bicycle safety. So pretty exciting stuff there. In Wheat Ridge, well, we have opportunity. And I think when we first did the bike master plan, I think we thought of it as an all or nothing type of plan. Well, really what it is an incremental plan. There's opportunity whenever we resurface a road to add some bike ped infrastructure along the way. So at that, we asked the question, what can we do in Wheat Ridge next year?
So I wanted to look specifically very quickly at a project in the Bike Ped Master Plan. Of 48 projects that were ranked, this came in as number 1. Bike lanes on Pierce from 26th going up to 44th. And you know, when we talk about fiscally prudent projects, bang for the buck, affecting a lot of businesses positively, this one really rings in there. You're talking about north-south connectivity, you're talking about connections to Ridge at 38, you're talking about connections up to the 44th Business District. Think about harnessing all that east-west traffic from 32nd and 26th and through wayfinding signage, bringing all those cyclists up to the Ridge at 38 or up to 44th. A lot of possibility there. So this is a very strong contender. So what are the costs? We'll share with you as a follow-up conceptual cost and a prelim design report was done for bike lanes on Pierce as well as 32nd. We'll get that to you guys. But it really is, compared to putting in a brand new roadway or resurfacing projects, it is the low-hanging fruit. It's what we're looking for. We know we're strained for dollars. We know there are existing roadways to fix, but we're really talking about just paint here with an existing right-of-way and all striping and symbols on existing pavement. Okay. And then as Scott alluded to, and Gil alluded to, maximizing benefit. So in doing research for this, we talked to a lot of jurisdictions. All right, tell us what you do. How does it work? How does it look? Public Works will very often interface with the multimodal plan, the bike ped master plan. When they're developing their overlay or surface plan annually, they'll hold it up right next to their multimodal plan and say, where can we maximize the benefit? We're going to resurface this road anyway. It's identified for bike lanes. Let's put bike lanes on there. Or let's stripe it for a new crosswalk. Or let's put Shero symbols on there for a shared lane, maximizing the benefit when a street is being resurfaced. So revenue sources, real quickly, we know that the 2014 CIP is already very constrained. There have been discussions conceptually about adjusting the reserve downward to generate revenue. I think you know that Senate Bill 48 was just signed by the governor, goes into effect in July. Wheat Ridge will now have the flexibility as to how it spends those dollars. Previously, just road and bridge, that was it. It can now spend it on transit, bike, and ped. That flexibility is built into the bill that was signed by Governor Hickenlooper. And then grants. The city has done a lot, and given all its policies that Scott referred to, it's really well positioned to take advantage of some of these grant programs. So next steps, just to wrap up here, you're going into your council retreat, and amongst lots of competing priorities, we certainly hope that you'll take this information and consider it and give some thought to how we can incrementally continue to build out our bike ped plan. We are here to help, so any additional information we can provide, just let us know. We're happy to have follow-up conversations. Throughout the summer, we'll be, everybody here will be attending council meetings relating to budget items, and then certainly the discussions in the fall when the rubber is really meeting the road. And then we hope, thinking ahead and envisioning, to have a ribbon cutting event, maybe on Pierce in 2014, where we bring you guys and the city a lot of positive publicity, maybe call it Ride the Ridge. But we really want to try to put Wheat Ridge more on the map as a great place to live, a great place to invest, and a great place to bike. So we hope you'll help us do that. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. As we say here, we want to thank you for your leadership. And like I said, we are all available for additional follow-up conversations, any information you need. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be starting our city council meeting in about 5 minutes. Please silence or turn off your cell phones for the meeting. 16, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The city clerk, please take roll.
Joyce J.
Here.
Joseph DeMott. Here. Mike Stites.
Here.
Christy Davis. Here. Davis Reinhardt.
Here.
Tracy Langworthy.
Here.
Bud Starker.
Present.
And George Pond.
Present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2013?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to approve, was seconded by Mr. Starker. Any changes to the minutes? Please poll the council.
Motion carries 7-0 with Mr. Pond abstaining.
Thank you. So we have three proclamations tonight. I was going to ask the city clerk to please read the Emergency Medical Services Proclamation and ask Courtney Morehouse and folks to come on forward, if she's here. Or anybody that's with the EMS group, please step forward. Thank you for coming.
Nice big group. This is a proclamation to designate the week of May 19th to the 25th, 2013 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas Emergency Medical Services, EMS, is a vital public service and access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experienced sudden illness or injury. And whereas first responders, emergency medical technicians, and paramedics stand ready to provide compassionate, life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas emergency medical responders are supported by emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, educators, administrators, researchers, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of EMS practitioners by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore I, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to the 21st, 2013 as Emergency Medical Services Week, with the theme EMS, One Mission, One Team. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof on this 13th day of May 2013. Signed by Jerry DiTullio, Mayor.
Like to say a few words? Like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of the council. Commander Casta, Chief Brennan. Rural Metro Pride Mark is very pleased to work with the city of Wheat Ridge and Wheat Ridge Fire Protection District to serve the citizens of this community. And it's because of our outstanding team members and our partnerships that we're able to do such a good job for the city.
Thank you. The next proclamation is the National Military Appreciation Month. Do we have anybody here for that? Please step forward. I would be down there tonight. I threw my back out, so I can't stand. So I apologize.
You're dancing too much at the prom?
I wish.
This proclamation is to designate the month of May 2013 as National Military Appreciation Month. Whereas the vigilance of the members of the armed forces has been instrumental to the preservation of the freedom, security, and prosperity enjoyed by the people of the United States and the city of Wheat Ridge, and whereas the success of the armed forces depends on the dedicated service of its members, their families, and the civilian employees of the Department of Defense and the Coast Guard. And whereas the role of the United States as a world leader requires a military force that is well trained, well equipped, and appropriately sized, and whereas serving in the armed forces entails special hazards and demands, extraordinary sacrifices from service members and their families, and whereas the observance of events recognizing the contributions of the armed forces is a tangible and highly effective way of sustaining morale and improving quality of life for service members and their families. Now therefore, I, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2013 as National Military Appreciation Month. I encourage the community to recognize and honor the United States Armed Forces and observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof, on this 13th day of May 2013, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say on behalf of the committee, thank you to the mayor, the city council, the city of Wheat Ridge, and the chief. As we all know, that there's many sacrifices that come with being a deployed member. Many sacrifices also that the city and the council and the police department endure, where somebody has to pick up the slack for that deployed member. And if there's one thing that a deployed member can always count on is our family here at the department and at the city, that the last thing we need to worry about is that we have our job when we come home. So thank you to the city council, the city, and the chief of police. Thank you.
Thank you. So our last proclamation is Peace Officers Memorial Day. Chief, did you want to join us for that one?
Chief. Pardon me? Read it right? Okay. The last proclamation is to designate the week of May 12th through 18th, 2013 as National Police Week, and May 15th specifically as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the City of Wheat Ridge Police Department, and whereas the nearly 60,000 assaults against police officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries, and whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, almost 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including 6 Colorado law enforcement officers killed in 2012. And whereas new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring in Washington, D.C., including 119 officers killed in 2012 and 201 killed in previous years. And whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. Now, therefore, I, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the month of May 2013 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. I encourage the community to recognize and honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy, and publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. In witness thereof, on this 13th day of May, 2013, Jerry DiTullio, Mayor.
And just a couple of quick words, Mayor and City Council. Again, appreciate all of the support that you give the police department in regards to the budget and your support of the programs that we offer. A lot of what we do in the department is that we try to do throughout the year is train, particularly in the areas of officer safety. We've been very blessed and fortunate in this organization not to have lost a member of our service, but unfortunately those jurisdictions around us have, and it's always a very tough and trying time for law enforcement. But we've made a commitment as an agency to provide exceptional service and to learn from the tragedies of others. So we will, rest assured, continue to train our officers to meet the challenges they face day in, day out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. The next item on the agenda is citizens' right to speak. Please step forward if you'd like to speak on any item that's not on the agenda for 3 minutes. Please spell your last name and state your city or your address. Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I passed out a resolution to endorse the application of Councilmember Davis Reinhardt for nomination to the Executive Board. We could either add that by motion or by unanimous consent. Does anybody have a problem by that being added by unanimous consent? Seeing no objections, we'll add item number 3, which is the resolution for the endorsement. Thank you. Item 1 is the consent agenda. Mr. Stites?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are, 6 items on consent. 1A, motion to approve award ITB 1313, installation of 38th banner poles to WL Contractors Incorporated, Arvada, Colorado, in the contract amount of $40,309 with a contingency amount of $4,030. 1B is motion to approve award ITB 1301 2013 overlay and concrete rehabilitation project-based bid and bid alternate number 1 to Asphalt Specialties Company, Henderson, Colorado, in the contract amount of $1,137,585.75, and to approve a contingency amount of $56,880. C, resolution number 17, 2013, approving a contract with the Colorado Department of Transportation for the Wadsworth Boulevard Planning and Environmental Linkage Study from 36 to 46 Avenue. D, a motion to approve the point-to-point network and internet connections agreement with CenturyLink in a form approved by the city attorney. E, motion to appoint Deborah Rosenthal as the Jefferson County Library Board Liaison at Large. F, correction to the council minutes for April 8th, 2013. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
I move to approve 1A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. It was seconded by Mr. Pond. Discussion on consent? Please poll the council.
Oh, I didn't. Please vote again. I'm sorry.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is ordinances of first reading. The purpose of first reading is to publish the ordinance and set a public date for the public hearing. Item 2 is Council Bill number 08-2013. Mr. Starker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to introduce item number 2, Council Bill number 08-2013, an ordinance amending the penalties for violating sections 1203 and 1208 of the Model Traffic Code for Colorado as adopted by the city concerning the parking of major vehicles and parking privileges for persons with disabilities, respectively, and making conforming amendments to Section 13-2 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws. At issue in this matter, in August 2012, the City Council adopted the 2010 edition of the Model Traffic Code for Colorado by reference and made certain local amendments to that code. Among the local amendments made by the city were tiered fine schedules for violations of 2 code sections, Model Traffic Code Section 1203, Major Motor Vehicles, and Section 1208, Parking Privileges for Persons with Disabilities. This ordinance eliminates the tiered fine schedules for violations of the code, sections 1203 and 1208, and impose a single uniform fine instead. Is a motion in order?
A motion's in order.
I move to approve Council Bill number 08-2013, an ordinance amending the penalties for violating sections 1203 and 1208 of the Model Traffic Code for Colorado, as adopted by the city, concerning the parking of major vehicles and parking privileges for persons with disabilities, respectively, and making conforming amendments to section 13-2 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, June 10th, 2013 at 7 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chambers, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval. It was seconded by Ms. J. Before council, we vote, I'd like to ask for you to consider an amendment on this tonight. Working with people with disabilities, I understand that we wanted to go to a one-fee system, $150. But looking at some other cities and what the tiered system was going to do, I would ask council to consider raising that ticket fee from $150 to a higher amount than $150. I talked to the city attorney about raising it to a $300 fine or a $250 fine. He said he didn't see a problem with that if the council wanted to do that. And the recommendation was to raise the rate. My recommendation to council is to raise the amount of the ticket to a higher amount just for the parking in the handicap spots. So if you're interested, you can amend it on first reading and then order it published, and then if you wanted to change it back on second reading, you still can. But would anybody consider raising the amount to a higher amount than $150 right now, based on the fact that it's pretty egregious when somebody parks in a handicap spot and they're really not supposed to be there? Does anybody have any comments on that?
I have just a quick question on that. Was it my recollection, Chief, that how often have we given tickets for this? I remember it not being very often. Is that correct?
My recollection is approximately 12 to 16 a year, if that high.
Okay. I mean, I know 12 to 16 is still 12 to 16 more, but I'm just trying to think of.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Langworthy?
And then I also thought you said that of those 12 to 16, the majority of them were people who actually had handicap stickers. They just hadn't placed them in. So, I mean, for the most part, there's very few people that are actually being caught.
That's correct. I'd have to look at the actual number of convictions that we have, but I think Kirsten Armstrong was the one who had stated that on many of those citations that were issued, the folks who received the parking ticket actually ended up coming in with a valid handicap license permit.
Well, I guess the point I was trying to make is even if it's one person or 20 people that are actually violating the law and get a ticket, I think they should pay more than $150 because of what they've, I mean, they willingly, most of the time, will park there without any kind of concern for anybody else. So would anybody like to make an amendment, or do you want to wait till second reading? Mr. Stites?
Yeah, I have really no problem bumping it up to 300. In fact, I really wouldn't have a problem bumping it up to 1,000, because I think anybody that parks in a handicapped spot is pretty lousy, but I would go 300.
Do you want to make that as an amendment then, Mr. Dahl?
I will.
Mr. Dahl?
There's there are two sections under section 2 of the ordinance on the second page, page 2. You'll notice 6A and 7 both address this, and so we should probably make the amendment clear. The first 6A is if you don't have a disability but yet you park in that space, then that's one violation. Second one is you don't have a disability but you use a license plate or placard. You get a fake placard, you use someone else's. So you'd want to make clear whether you're applying the increase to one or both of those situations. Both. Okay.
Mr. Stites, you want to make that as an amendment, that you want to amend the ordinance?
Yeah, I do, on both.
For 6A and 7, Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
So we have a motion to amend the ordinance, amending section 6A and 7 to be $300 fine. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that.
Seconded by Ms. J. Discussion on the amendment for 300 for 6A and Section 6A and Section 7.
Mr. Mayor, just to remind council, the court, I don't think it's not included in this packet, but the last packet they provided to you, I think they had some concerns about the fine being too much higher than other municipalities. I think they did a survey and it was lower than, I'm just giving information, Mr. Mayor. It was closer to $30, $40, $50, and they had some concerns that other fines were not even close to 300, but just information for you to remember.
And there's one other spot under.
Mr. Dahl and Ms. Langwood?
There's one other spot.
Well, yes, that's at the top of page 2.
Yep.
That pertains to the parking of major vehicles, does not pertain to.
Okay, so that's, okay,
Yeah.
just make sure.
The only ones for handicap parking, disability parking are in section 2 of the ordinance, bottom page 2.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss one.
Sure, appreciate it. I had to check that myself before I.
So the amendment is to amend the ordinance, section 6A and 7, to increase the violation from $150 to $300, the ticket fine. Seconded by Ms. J. Please poll the council on the amendment. Oh.
More discussion.
I just guess, we did a study session on this, and to be honest, I don't necessarily have a specific recollection of how that costing went, but I would have preferred to re-review the issue when there was, not just necessarily on the dais. So I'll be voting against this amendment because I think we agreed in principle to bring it forward with the other number, and there seems some doubt as to where that fits relative to other jurisdictions. So I'll be voting against this.
Mr. Stites?
Yeah, quite frankly, when we were discussing it that night, I had the $300 figure in mind. In fact, really, and quite honestly, I really wouldn't have a problem with $1,000 because I think it's pretty schmucky for anybody to park in a handicapped zone. So regardless of the discussion, regardless of anything, I really don't have a problem bumping it up to $300.
Any other comments? Then this will come back for second reading. Council could amend it again if you wanted, but this is for first reading. So if it does pass and you don't amend it on second reading, you're done with the ordinance. So please poll the council on the amendment.
Motion carries 5-3 with council members Davis, Starker, and Reinhardt voting no.
Thank you. So we have a main motion as amended. Please poll the council. Oh, Janelle, can you clear the board?
I wanted to write that down.
Please poll the council on the main motion as amended.
Motion carries 7-1
Want to reset it?
with,
She'd like to reset it.
Okay.
Ms. Davis.
for once it was someone else, not me. Okay. Oh. I thought everybody voted. Mike?
Please revote on the main motion as amended for, thank you.
Motion carries 8-0.
I want to thank council for considering that amendment in the best interest of the community. Next item on the agenda is item number 3. It's a resolution to endorse Mr. Reinhardt. Mr. Starker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce item number 3, which was added to the agenda, which is a motion to endorse the application of Councilmember Davis Reinhardt for nomination to the Executive Board of the Colorado Municipal League, CML. At issue in this matter, Councilmember Davis Reinhardt of District 1 would like to apply to serve on the 2013-2014 Colorado Municipal League's Executive Board. This requires an endorsement of the City Council. Is a motion in order?
Motion's in order.
Therefore, I move to endorse the application of Councilmember Davis Reinhardt for nomination to the Executive Board of the Colorado Municipal League.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second that nomination.
The motion to approve was seconded by Ms. J. Discussion on the main motion for the resolution. Please poll the council.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our agenda for this evening, so we'll move on to city manager's matters.
Thank you, Mayor. Received a news release today from Jefferson County Open Space. They've made their final decisions on their improvement plans for Crown Hill Park. Who that is? Is that my phone? The information can be found on their website, but their final decision, the final plans include replacing the restroom, park information center kiosk, adding 3 accessible and staff parking spaces, and removal of all fitness stations. So there is a map that is on their website that will show those in more detail. And I would also like to thank all the citizens who participated in our citizen forum this year. We had over 72 participants, so we're going to update City Council on the information provided, received at our retreat this weekend. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Dahl?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Ms. Shaver?
Yeah, I just wanted to let the council know that this past Thursday, the Liquor Authority approved a change in policy that they would go ahead and approve new liquor licenses without the required approval of the background check from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. This will be done on a not with every license, but as I guess as they see fit. And what they've decided to do was approve the license, but then the applicant is told that if the CBI report comes back with anything contrary to what they have testified to, that their license will be suspended, and temporarily they will take action, have a show cause hearing, and decide what to do from there. And there were 3 new licenses approved last Thursday. One was Mr. Starker's new restaurant on 29th and Depew. Kickin' Wings over in the Shopette near 50th and Kipling. It's in that Shopette that has Luke's Steakhouse and Subway and some other things, but Kickin' Wings can now serve beer and wine. And the other one is I'm going to date myself and call it the old former House of Lords restaurant at 41st and Kipling. That sort of green rock building that it was a pool hall and bar for a number of years, and it's been vacant for quite a while. And now it's going to be a nice restaurant called Wine Not, and run by the Rotolo family, and they have a long line of experience. It's not the former council person Rotolo, but a Rotolo family. They started out in Arvada, I believe it was, and one of their restaurants was featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives on the Food Channel. So they've closed that, and they're having a different establishment now. I think they've closed. I could be wrong about that. I shouldn't say that. But their son is opening the one at the Wine Not at 41st and Kipling, approximately. And so that's another 3 new licenses, and Kickin' Wings is already open, but the other 2 are yet to open. But we'll see how this policy goes, and hopefully eventually the CBI will be able to be more on time. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Ms. Davis? Ms. Langworthy?
Just a reminder that the next Meet the Artist will be this Thursday over at the Brunswick Zone. And the artist is going to be Tammy McKenzie, and she's a photographer. So that will be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. the May 16th at Brunswick Bowling.
Thank you. Mr. Pond?
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. J?
I want to take the opportunity to thank and congratulate Deborah Rosenthal, who is our new library board liaison. That's the first person we've had for that position, and I'm reading her application. She's a very talented and capable person, so she's a great addition to our city, of our cast of volunteers. So thanks, Deborah.
Thank you. Mr. DeMott?
Sure, thank you. I had the honor this morning of visiting a couple of nursing homes in the city to represent the mayor and city council for National Nursing Home Week. And I just wanted to share a proclamation that we read to kick off some of the festivities that they had at each nursing home. I was at Christopher House this morning and Mountain Vista in the afternoon, and they each had themes and games, and they were partying is what they were doing. But I just wanted to share a proclamation that I got to read to kick off their National Nursing Home Week. Whereas our beloved citizens of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, now residing in nursing homes, skilled nursing care, and post-acute care centers, have contributed immeasurably to the heritage, success, and growth of our community. And nursing home residents of any age or ability are themselves living history and a precious resource. And members, skilled nursing care centers of the American Healthcare Association and the Colorado Healthcare Association are holding events in observance of National Nursing Home Week, guided by this year's national theme of Team Care, Everyone Pitches In. And Nursing Home Week begins on Mother's Day, May 12th, and ends on May 18th, 2013. Therefore, I, representing the mayor and city council of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, urge everyone in the community to visit their loved one, friend, or neighbor currently residing in a skilled nursing care center to show respect for all that they have given to society and to us. Let no elderly or disabled person sit alone during this time to wonder if they are valued, appreciated, and loved. Visiting or volunteering your time at a local care facility is a testament to community spirit, brings honor to our fathers, mothers, grandparents, and everyone in residence, and lifts the spirits of caregivers who value your involvement. And I just wanted to take a minute to thank Christopher House again and Mountain Vista. I also got to commentate on some Olympic Games this morning at Christopher House, where they had winners and prizes and refreshments, and it was, yeah, they kicked off a good week, so they should be having fun. So I just wanted to read that. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
And thank you all for the opportunity for letting me go.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Thank you. Couple quick ones. First, I want to thank all the community members and actually staff as well who participated in the cleanup on 38th, the ridge at 38th. They spent 2 hours walking street, picking up and sprucing the place up a little. And then also in District 1, as part of the East Wheat Ridge neighborhood policing, there was a sort of a dumpster day sort of event, and they filled up 4 dumpsters in an attempt to get that up. So it's good to see a little spring cleaning around District 1 and 2 and the rest of town as well, I suppose. On what I think is probably a little was more interesting to me, and I attended the fundraising breakfast for what used to be called the Jefferson Action Center, the Action Center, and frankly was overwhelmed by what they're doing. We have a number of good nonprofits that are contributing in our community, and I was only vaguely aware of what the Action Center does, and I'd like to share that with the community, both for those who might need it and those who might want to participate in their programs. Since 1968, the Action Center is a human nonprofit, has provided immediate response to basic human needs and promotes pathways to self-sufficiency for Jefferson County residents and homeless. The economic times have impacted many residents, most of whom are not homeless, but rather just trying to stay within their homes. Historically, the average number of households served per day have been in the low hundreds, but in 2012 was another record-setting year with over 300 visits. And just to give you a sense of what that is within Wheat Ridge, this is their responses. They gave out 1,188 bus tokens. 797 people received article clothing from their clothing bank. 349 children received Santa Shop toys. 476 families received Thanksgiving boxes. 74 families received utility assistance in the winter for over $30,000, or over $400,000 of contributions to members of our community who are in need. But I want to tell you that it was actually inspiring to me, and it sometimes takes something to get my attention. But the number in all of that that really jumped out at me was that there are over 5,000 volunteers in that organization working to support the community and varying levels at varying area, and that only 90% of their dollars that they receive go directly to individuals and the direct programs. There's almost really no overhead in that system, and I just want to shout out to what that organization is, and anyone that wants to participate or contribute or need service, I'd be glad, and I'm sure everyone else of this would be, to try and help them make the contacts they need. So I think there's a great organization, and appreciate their service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darker?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stites?
Oh, yeah. I'd like to say that Colorado Plus, the newest restaurant bar on 38th Avenue, is opening this week in the old Valenti's restaurant. They've done a great job remodeling in there. Go by just to see the remodeling if you're, But, and I understand the food is fantastic and the beer, so they've opened up, so go by and take a look at it. It'd be a great time to relocate your home or business to Wheat Ridge. If you need any help, see one of us or staff. They'd be happy to help you. Positive thing, boy, there's a lot of weeds popping up around town after all this rain we've had. Take care of them that are on your property and see if your neighbors need help. There's nothing that says you can't help your neighbors out. And as always, please try to find it and buy it in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the Jefferson County Historic Commission and the Wheat Ridge Historical Society. They kicked off a historical tour in Wheat Ridge. I kicked it off with Mr. DeMott and a few other folks from the city of Wheat Ridge and staff. And they toured the city of Wheat Ridge and looked at some of the historical sites in Wheat Ridge, including the Fruitdale School, the Richards Hart Estate. So it was a good day. We had probably about 50 to 75 people there. A lot of the folks were from the east side of town, and they actually had a good time touring the city. And I also wanted to acknowledge that a couple weeks ago, we had the Jefferson Center for Mental Health fundraising dinner, and as you remember, the city purchased a table, and then council members Pond and Stites and myself and DeMott had additional funds go towards that donation. And Mr. Stites was there, Mr. Pond was there, Mr. DeMott, we had Chief Brennan and Mr. Goff. It was a good time to celebrate Jefferson Center for Mental Health. But what they did is they took the donation from the city of Wheat Ridge, and then they also had people bid on that money. So they actually raised from a $2,000 donation of the elected officials from the public outreach, they raised approximately another $10,000 from hand bids that night. So it went really well. So I appreciate all the support from the city of Wheat Ridge and the elected officials for the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. And the last thing I wanted to do is acknowledge some community members who really helped 25 students at the Wheat Ridge High School enjoy their prom this year. We had that, it was Saturday, and I want to just acknowledge these folks who either donated funds or money or snacks or food or whatever the case might have been, location, but it was really great to see the community come out. We had Millie Nadler, Tom Abbott, Bud Starker, Jerry Dahl, Tom Yang, Tori Swanson. He's a commander on the USS Mississippi submarine. Nancy Snow, Claudia Worth, Joyce Manwaring and Chief Brennan for their work that they helped. And the kids wanted to thank you for all your support. And everything went well. They had about 450 students down at the Sports Authority, one of the banquet rooms, and it really was a big deal. It was a nice place to have it's a dinner dance, everything at one location, so they're not all over Jefferson County driving, so it was great. So thanks for all the support, and Wheat Ridge High School and supporting the high school. So with that, I guess we'll adjourn, and we'll take 5, and we'll come back for our study session. call to order the study session for May 13, 2013. Do we have anybody here for public comment on any item on the agenda for the study session? Seeing none, there was a request that we heard number 3 first because we have a gentleman here from Jeffco Initiative. Does anybody have a problem with that? So, Mr. Baker, please step forward. Thanks for seeing you again. Welcome.
Council, thank you very much for allowing me to take up some of your valuable.
Can you go ahead and raise up the mic a little bit there?
Get that in. How's that? Is that better?
Thank you.
Is that okay? First of all, the reason I'm here is to brief you on the status of the Ford Jeffco initiative, and also to make a formal request for an increase in funding by Wheat Ridge to this program. First of all, my name is Fred Baker, and I'm the current board chair for Jeffco EDC. I've been a member, and our company's been a member since the late I think it was around 1997, 1998. And our company, Oyallen Company, has built about 120 industrial and office flex buildings throughout Jefferson County. I counted one time that we built about 30 buildings within a 2-block radius of 52nd and Ward Road. So I stand here with a decent amount of experience in the areas that I believe Jeffco EDC can excel. In the past, we have really kind of managed with a minimalistic attitude, and about 7 years ago, we went through the creation of a 5-year plan, and we created what was really a great plan. It involved the creation of, I believe at the time was 5,000 primary jobs, and the problem was that when we went to funding it, we had this old attitude that we were going to ask people on an annual basis for money, including the municipalities and the county, and in doing so, we were just never really able to do anything other than kind of make it by from year to year. And so 2.5, 3 years ago, we made a major decision that we were going to look at how we were funded in a very different way. And we retained Angelo Economics to conduct that study. And what came back from it was really pretty interesting. And that is that if we were going to really do what we had the potential to do, we really had to look at a different way to fund our organization. So we retained a company to help us with that effort, NCSD, and they are, both those companies are nationally known for what they do. And in creating this, though, it's not just a matter of raising more money. It's a matter of being able to provide a reasonable service in the areas that we believe are important within the county. And those areas are, I believe, number one is primary job creation. And I think that really transcends municipalities in the county. What we want to create is our nodes of specific kinds of businesses, clean energy, and as well as high tech and biomedical, which we already have here. We have NRail, and we have the School of Mines. We have really good foundations to create these nodes of specific clean businesses and primary jobs, well-paid jobs. And during this process, what we came up with was a goal of about 7,500 new primary jobs in the county. And to put that in the sense of how I think, 7,500 jobs requires about 2 million square feet of new buildings. There's maybe at best 500,000 square feet of buildings in the entire county that really are in a state that could house the kind of businesses that we're going to be looking for. So we need to create a minimum And that's really not looking even at the businesses now that are in buildings that are antiquated, that we don't have anywhere near the kind of land in the county to create, to house that many businesses. So what we really need to do is start from the ground floor, find land that's ready to be zoned, get it zoned, and get it properly entitled, site plans that make sense, and then vertical development. Here in Wheat Ridge, you have one of the top, I think, 2 projects that are near-term, significant, important projects for all of Denver. And you know, I'm speaking of Clear Creek, and I think that project can, if it's designed well, and if we can find the right kind of ownership, can house about 3 million square feet of office, residential, and retail. It is probably going to be the most critical project in this part of the world for the next 10 years. And I can't think of another project that's going to be any more important during this time of growth in our economy. And those are things, for example, that we are paying a lot of attention to, and it's going to be a major part of the effort of Jefferson County EDC in the years to come. I would like to answer questions after I'm finished, so I'm trying to keep things on a little bit of a higher level. I do want to thank, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Wheat Ridge for their involvement and financially and people-wise with Councilman Reinhardt and Steve Art. Steve is, I have to say too, he is the most active EDC individual within Jeffco EDC, and you have a great guy, and I like to think of him as a personal friend of mine as well. But what we are, the program that we have developed is we have sufficient capital, and from the membership, present membership, to be able to run the administrative part of our efforts. What the Jeffco initiative is really going to do is it's going to fund as a separate project. It's going to support these efforts for advocacy of businesses within the county and the municipalities, for job growth, job training. We were fortunate enough in our area to have Red Rocks that's doing a wonderful job at some of the basic job creation that we necessarily need to have in this area. All of the things that we're doing, all of the job creation is going to raise the level of the sea up in this whole area significantly. It's going to raise housing values and generate tax revenue. Those things only increase really by the job creation and the general growth in the area, and that's our primary effort. So I ask you today if you would please consider this request. I believe it's for an additional $10,000 over the course per year over the course of 5 years, and that increase, as I say, is going to go specifically into this Forward Jeffco initiative.
So Fred, you're requesting to increase our amount to $10,000 for 5 years.
Our request is to increase it by $10,000.
By $10,000 for 5 years, $50,000.
I think the current investment level is $4,400. That will continue through. Is that correct?
We do 6,600.
6,600.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
6,600.
Will continue to pay the administration of Jefferson County EDC will not be diluted. The additional $10,000 will not be diluted by any administrative costs.
And so I wanted to let the council know, just as we talked, because Fred met with Mr. Reinhardt, myself, and Patrick, and Steve, is that if you look at $50,000 over 5 years, you divide that by our population, it's about $1.66 a person over 5 years. $50,000 divided by 30,000 people, it's $1.66 per person to fund this additional funds. Any questions from council? Or staff? Ms. Davis?
As far as administrative costs, what percentage of your dollar is that?
The Wheat Ridge, well,
Or just in general, your overall administrative costs from,
our current budget is about $850,000 a year. So, you know, it's currently, Wheat Ridge is about 0.8%. It's, but you know, what we're really trying to do, and just to kind of answer maybe a parallel question is, in the past, we really relied on the municipalities and the county to fund the organization. What we're trying to do, and that's been about 60% public money to 40% private. One of our goals is to get that flipped over the other side to about 70% private to 30% from the municipalities, and we're well on our way to doing that through this initiative.
Mr. Pond?
I guess I just need a clarification because maybe I'm reading something incorrectly, because I see the memo that says from 66 to 10, and what I'm hearing is from 6,600 to 16,600. Is that correct?
Yeah, I heard that too. No, the request is, as I understand it, is from $6,600 a year to $10,000 a year. So a total of $50,000 over 5 is what we talked about. So an additional $3,400 a year is what they're asking.
Mr. Baker, does that make sense?
Well, I think we're not to be. I think the request was. I'm not sure how the request was communicated. Maybe it wasn't adequately communicated. The request was for an additional $10,000 to what you're currently your current involvement. But that's, you know, that's our request. I mean, we're not, you know, it's certainly not a line in the sand or anything. It's our request.
Mr. Reinhardt?
I just, I'm sorry. Were you?
No, Mr. Reinhardt, go ahead, and I'll give Ms. J.
Okay. I just wanted to comment on the organizational need, and without speaking to what appropriate level of participation she should make, and we can talk about that as part of the regular budget cycle, I think. But although I would add that I believe they're asking for us to take sooner action, I'm not necessarily advocating for anything. But I would like to point out that the organization itself really fits a hole in the, if you will, the marketing of the West Side and Jefferson County as a whole. If you look at the Aurora situation, they have a large community that has a tremendous amount of power and a economic development organization that, because the city is such a strong entity, operates in a much more effective way. Here in Jefferson County, we're very fragmented, and we don't have any single organization besides the Jeffco EDC that's performing that function. And so, you know, I would advocate for the support of the function, but this isn't the form at which I'm going to make some specific advice or recommendation. I do think we should look very hard at what this organization does for us, though, when the time comes.
Ms. J?
Yeah, I'd like to get some clarification on the amount, that's for sure, which will come down the pike. But as I look at this, I think it's very hard not to become a part of this effort because it is very hard for a small city to gather those sorts of resources, and we would be more of a plateau with the other sections of the metro area should we be involved in this. I am curious why the TOD site wasn't mentioned as an area of interest.
I'm sorry, I was just.
The TOD site, where the gold line, okay, I was curious in your referring to, you did not mention the transit-oriented development site at Ward Road as part of this whole look at.
Well, I don't personally. I'm giving you a lot of my personal feelings when it comes to development, not necessarily the Jeffco EDC's general opinion. I would not consider that a location for primary jobs.
Okay.
That was a distinction that I would draw. But I certainly would not omit that project. That could be a very important project for Wheat Ridge. what I would, the part that I'm the most curious of, and I used to know more about it than I do now, is the land that lies to the east and a little bit to the south of where the transit stop is going to be.
Yeah, I am familiar with that. There is some great land there.
Much will be in the mix for primary job development. It's just there's really nobody that's really pushing it right now. So
I understand.
We'll focus on where I think things will be over the next 2, 3, 4 years.
I was just curious why that wasn't mentioned.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It sits in the middle of a lot of projects that we build, and we're familiar with it.
Mr. Stites?
Just for the benefit, what is the difference between your group and like the JEC, Jefferson County Economic Council?
It's just that we changed the name about 4 years ago. When I talk to people, I still say JEC. If for some reason Jeffco EDC doesn't roll off my lips very well, but it's the same.
That is good. Yes, that's true. So I just wanted to make sure that there was no overlapping or anything. So you are basically then the JEC that you're doing.
We went through. We did. We have new graphics, and it's same place.
Mr. Baker, I'm pretty sure that when we had our meeting, I think Patrick and I heard the same thing, that the funding would be increased. The request was from $6,000 a year to $10,000 a year total, not to $16,000.
I apologize for my ignorance. I could be wrong. It was my
for 5 years
of the request, but there was a formal request, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was, well, just in our meeting, but it was up to 10,000 on top, including what we're providing today, because it was going to be in line with Golden's ask was 50,000 over 5 years also.
So it was $10,000 a year for 5 years total. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Starker?
Thank you, Mr. Baker, for bringing this to us. In just sort of looking at your program, then, you've got about a $3.9 million budget, and you're hoping to raise 70% of that out of the private sector and about 30% out of the public sector?
That's our goal, yes.
Okay. Targeting about 7,500 new jobs? Okay. And those jobs you think are worth about $900 million in payroll? I wasn't quite sure what the disposable income, what's...
I'll have to apologize again. Normally, Rob Osborne is here, and he is the guy in the trench.
He's the numbers guy.
He's really the numbers guy, and he's in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I would say that we've reviewed those numbers, and I believe them to be accurate. But I wasn't part of making them. With the leaps of logic that one goes from primary jobs to how much money that really makes in the long run. I have to apologize. I'll be more than happy. I can get you the information.
That's okay. I will stop grilling you and send condolences to your colleague in Washington.
He's not here, so I can blame him.
Well, in council, there was a request in the meeting too that additional monies would be given out this year. So if you were interested in working with this program, that if it was $10,000 total, that additional $4,000 more or less would be contributed this year, and then the next 4 years would be $10,000 a year. So, any other questions or comments? Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patrick, do you have any comments on it?
I don't. Do you want to leave this for budget discussion, or you want to discuss it tonight to give direction to staff, or how would you like to handle it?
I guess I tend to think it belongs in the broad budgetary discussions myself, but I'm just one person.
It does. Then there's this request to bring it up to $10,000 for this year, which would be a budget.
I understand the distinction, and I responded to the distinction.
Anybody on council have any other comments or questions on it? Especially about the budget for this year, because that was one of the requests they made in the meeting. Mr. Starker, you have any comments on it? No. Christie? Okay. Okay.
Okay. So
you have no direction
this evening,
except for going to budget, I guess.
Budget. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Let's see. Item one, improvement of City Hall entry plaza.
evening, all. We have two different items. They're interrelated to some degree, and it's always money that interrelates everything here in Wheat Ridge. But I'm going to start with the improvements to the City Hall Plaza. We hired Oz Architects to come in and take a look at the architectural drawings that had been provided a few years ago. We had a committee of city departments that worked with the architect and have come up with a design that incorporates one of the things that City Council asked, and that's whether or not we could incorporate some additional city signage, thereby negating the need for signage along Wadsworth. And so you have the drawings, but I also have them on the slide for you. You can see that they're suggesting the large city logo to replace the smaller one that's on the current sign, and to have the...
No.
Oh. How do we do that? Isn't it on? It was. Yes. It's on mine. I just assumed it was on yours.
What does it say now?
Westminster? It's a
Says Westminster.
it's a less fancy Wheat Ridge. Way smaller.
Minuscule? Okay.
Poquito. It's Poquito on the city.
Well,
right
I
now.
was driving by, West Wadsworth the other day.
You should know. You put it
almost,
on there, didn't you?
Almost had a wreck looking for it.
Didn't you see it blinks every 10 seconds?
Didn't you, Bill, put it on there?
No, I did the backside.
How small it is?
The police department.
That's right. When you get there, you know it. You're not looking for the sign. You're looking for a way out.
I got you. That sign gets really big, doesn't it? The police department. It's on.
Oh, yes, there it is. Where's the front?
As Elvis would say, thank you very much.
Okay, so it's on your screens now. Okay. In the packet and on your screens, and you can see we've got a few slides from different angles. What you'll see is that this particular design, which is supported by the staff, is a softer design than we had before, less concrete, a little more landscape material. We have eliminated the tables and inserted a couple more benches. And,
I don't see Mr. DeMott on a bicycle anywhere.
And then the aerial view, you can see we've added a covered patio or covered canopy. Those are both the skylights, and there's also electric lighting. But we do have lighting so that we keep it lit during the day with the natural sunlight, and then in the evening we'll have other lighting available. We've added some bike racks, as you can see over on just on the east side of the flagpoles. So, if you like what you see and want us to move forward, we will have the architect complete the design drawings for the canopy and get those out to bid so we can get them constructed later this year. We'll also have the architect work on the signage along the building. They feel confident that they can get the old lettering off and be able to make this work and look very nice. We'll have some uplighting to display the new City Hall light. Be happy to answer any questions you have on the project at this point.
Questions? Ms. J?
I have a comment. I really like the city of Wheat Ridge on the piece. I'm not excited about paying another $42,000 or whatever it is when we're looking at 200. And I'm wondering, do we need the wording City Hall across the top? It looks to me too many words and stuff over there. I would like to not see that on there, which could cut the cost down, I don't know. But that's just a comment.
What we felt is that, or the architect felt that if we put City Hall, it would help direct people into that doorway.
Well, I would think a smaller sign, though, maybe.
Could make it smaller. It won't save you any money, but.
I was thinking set, not up there, but.
Okay.
It's in gold.
Yeah.
We certainly can make it smaller. The reason we put it up there again is it kind of hides some of the equipment that's up on the roof.
Oh.
And so by having that panel, it does hide some of the ventilation equipment that we have up above.
And I think it can also be seen from Wadsworth, can it? So that it identifies the building for travelers, if that's
it's easier
important to you.
Drive around the building to see where to come in. Now, the money portion of this, we had $200,000 budgeted, but what we could do, if you like this project, is we could use $40,000 of the entry signage funds to complete this project and put the sign in the building, or we could leave the sign off if you prefer to leave the sign that we have on the building today in place. So you have those options. We don't have to put the new logo sign on the building, but we have thought about how to fund that, and it would be to take that money out of the $100,000 we have for the entry signs, because this is, again, the elimination of one entry sign on Wadsworth.
Ms. Davis?
So I have more of just a comment, and this is just my comment. And I know this has probably been a working project for a while, because it sounds like it's been in the budget a couple times. But I guess my general personal feeling is that $242,000 is a lot of money. And I know it would make this city hall look good, but the whole time we go to these we have our town hall meetings, and we kind of chicken little, the sky is falling, we're gonna run out of capital improvement budget, we won't be able to pave our streets, we won't, we have all this. And so I guess I just feel awkward spending $250,000 when we're saying that we're X million behind in road maintenance and that type of thing. And I mean, I'm not to say that we can't do a little bit. It's kind of like we all do in our homes. Okay, I can't redo my bathroom, but maybe I'll, paint and get some new rugs or something. So I'm not saying that we can't do anything. And I think the little things that we've done with the cute little fox and the landscaping to the left of it, and, if we can do some other landscaping would be nice. But I guess in, just conscientiously thinking, how is $250,000 gonna, how can we use it to contribute to the greater good? I just have a bit of discomfort with this.
Mr. Starker?
Mr. Parenta, would you go back to your plan view, such as it is? Thank you. Now, walk me through here for a minute. We've got, are you building addition on this thing?
No.
So this is the front of the building as it currently exists, or?
If you see my pointer, the front of the building comes here and then comes across.
Okay.
And we'll be building a canopy area here.
Okay. Stop there. Tell me, what are these silver things on that canopy?
Those are tube lights that show through from during the day. You'll have tube lights, and it depicts the tube lights that are designed to provide lighting during the day. So because it is an entry area that has no lighting.
So these are little tube lights?
These are tube lights.
Not skylights?
Pardon?
Not skylights?
No, they're tube lights, and then there will also be regular fluorescent lighting.
Okay. So that's covered space but not enclosed space, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, on the other half of the roof, it looks like we've got some glass skylights up there. Is that the south? Nope, the south half.
Over here.
Yes, sir.
That's open. This is just some structure to hold that in place.
Okay, so that's open to above.
Yes.
And we have some new landscaping that's down there. Looks like we've got new landscaping down there.
Yes.
And then we're taking out the little wall that's adjacent to the...
over here.
Yep, we're taking out that wall. We're going to put some plantings in there and some benches in there.
Yes.
Okay. And then do we have new plantings around the flagpole area?
Yes.
And we have a new bicycle rack location.
Yes.
And now, there was an earlier this evening, we approved a budget item that had an alternate number 1. And I think it was with the overlay program that was some $23,000 for concrete work at City Hall.
Yes.
Is that the concrete work in this plaza area?
Yes.
Okay. Is the cost of that work included in your estimate for this work or in addition to?
It's included.
It's included.
Right. So we have, if I can get my pointer working again, we are planning to demo approximately where I'm showing.
Right.
That area, the plaza area, will be demoed, and then we'll reconstruct the pavement that you see in this drawing. And that bid for that work is $20,000.
Right. Well, I have 2 comments. One, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Manwaring and other members of whatever department that put the sod and replaced the wood chips with the sod and I guess there's some new sod, and it looks to me like they did a great job in sprucing up City Hall. I for one, I'm not really feeling the need to kind of do an entry. I actually think the sign on City Hall looks pretty good myself. I drive by Wadsworth and I look over, and while I'm trying to miss other traffic on Wadsworth, I'm sort of able to tell what building it is. So I think there's a role here to take down the little brick wall that we have and put some nice landscaping and plants and the bike rack, and I think the concrete work is great, and that's kind of the project that I look for. Thank you.
Mr. Pronto, you're not going to remove or throw away that bench out there that's dedicated to some citizens that were...
The Dorothy Thompson bench?
Yes.
No,
it's going to be a real big problem, I think, with some people in the community if you start getting rid of those benches and throwing them away. So.
No, that bench would be relocated and be one of the 3 that you see here.
Okay. Any other comments about Mr. Pond?
Just a question. So just to clarify, Mr. Starker's very good catch on the add alternate on the overlay, and it being inclusive. So does that mean that we're 200 plus the 23 or 20 that we just did, or is it inside of the 200? It's inside of the 200.
So that part's already been approved, basically, from this evening.
Yeah. If you
Right, we
choose not to do it, we won't.
Right, because that
it just won't be done.
right, because that 20 is executing this design, at least on the ground.
Yes.
Is it any piers or anything else for the columns? Anything?
No, it won't affect any of the other work.
So you could do the ground plane. You could do the ground plane with the 20 or 23 that was already dedicated, and then the landscape cost. Do we have a breakout on that?
I'm just looking at that right now, and from my estimate, I'd just tell you that about $20,000 plus the demo work. Let's see, so for $30,000 in that neighborhood, in addition to the concrete, I can take care of all of the surface improvements, and $50,000 total.
50 grand, you could do the ground plane.
We can do everything and forget about any of the structural work that
So then the canopy / parapet and the sign then would be really the remainder.
Yes.
I think that's what Mr. Starka was recommending too, is all the groundwork, landscaping, concrete, benches.
I heard him say concrete, I didn't hear him say anything green, so.
I'm sorry, I think we're working too hard on this bicycle issue right now. I think we gotta.
Any more questions, Mr. Pond? All kidding aside.
No, I mean, no, I comment. I appreciate the reservations of the expenditure of the money. I think we've already, we had obviously gotten to a place where we had some of this budgeted. I like the overall look. I like the idea of celebrating the front of the building a little bit in a larger manner that might take away the need to do it on the street in a different way. However, if there's more of a consensus to minimize the expenditure right now, I would definitely support doing the ground plane work, including the landscape, and I assume irrigation and all the infrastructure needed to support this design on the ground. And then we can certainly, I would assume, pick up the pieces on the wall or in the canopy at a later date.
Yes, it can be done.
Any other questions, or do you want to make a oh, Mr. Stites?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that I think this is one of those feel-good projects. If we had a lot of money and a lot of revenue coming in, this is something that we could throw in, but I think the way things are tight now and particular things, we need to watch it. And then it kind of still bothers me sometimes why we're using grass with the water situation the way that it is. Why can't we use AstroTurf in a lot of these areas? I just think it makes more sense than grass, but I do think this is a feel-good project that we don't need at this time.
So it sounds like there's a consensus brewing that we would do all the groundwork, landscaping, irrigation for around $50,000. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we'll take care of that.
Affirmative, 50,000 or less for all the ground, the green stuff, as Mr. Pond puts it.
And I think to sort of go in with Mr. Stites on this, I don't think we're putting in any new sod. I think all the sod is existing.
Yes.
I mean, that's the plan. So all the new plantings were probably drip irrigation and
Is there going to be any marijuana grow on this?
drought tolerant. I don't believe so. You need to grow that inside.
Yeah, we gotta make some money.
We are the farmers, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So that's the consensus, 50,000 or less for the ground area, landscaping, bike racks, okay. Concrete. The concrete's been approved, right? Yeah. Okay, move on to item number 2, which is the gateway monument signs.
And I know the map that I gave you was really, really small, but I know a lot of you get it digitally, so we felt you might want to pull it up. I did reproduce it so it's on your screen. And what we have done, if you had a chance to go through the packet, you'll see all of the different locations, and we've color-coded the locations by the size of the monument sign that the area would accommodate. And then what we've also done is we have taken each of the locations and showed both an aerial and a street view of each of the signs. And just as to start, this happens to be the one here at City Hall that I've got on the screen. And that's where that would have been located, and that's the size of that one. So if we come back to the main map, staff is looking for direction this evening as to whether you want to pursue any, and if so, which of the locations that you see on the map that I have on your boards right now.
Comments, questions on the signage? Mr. Reinhardt?
Well, yeah, I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but I was looking for a little different approach when we talked about this the last time, which wasn't a sort of traditional signage that, big signs at as many places as possible, but rather sort of a stylistic entry feature with, more like the bricks that we have on up at the east end of town, a little monumentation that's relatively cheap, I don't know, $1,000 a piece or something that we could have in a lot of difference to mark the perimeter of the site. So this really doesn't go the direction generally that I was interested in. So I'm not really supportive of this program as it came back to us myself at all, actually. But that's just me.
I think Mr. Reinhardt's referring to those street little.
Yeah, the little brick
29th.
monuments
They're
that
on
have
29th. They're
our
about
logo
2.5
on
feet,
them.
3 feet
Something
high.
more that scale, but a lot of them around the perimeter.
Yeah, they're brick and
Yeah.
they have a cap on them. They're really nice. And they have a little wheat sign on them right now.
That's more not necessarily just that one thing, although I like those well enough, but that's something more that scale at a lot of our entries to sort of define our perimeter and as opposed to sort of a 10-foot minimum sign.
Mr. Starker?
I kind of agree with Mr. Reinhardt. When I think about sort of perimeter signage, about people coming into our city, I've noticed in Lakewood at a couple of locations on just off of Wadsworth at about 10th Avenue, if you go east or west, there's small monument signs. They're ground and scale. They're maybe 2 or 3 feet high and 3 or 4 feet wide. They're brick. I would like, if we could, in terms of building community in our city, to start to identify neighborhoods and maybe neighborhoods by name, and that maybe some of these neighborhoods could be incorporated into the sign. So for instance, in my neighborhood, it's Columbia Gardens, so maybe it's Welcome to Wheat Ridge, Columbia Gardens neighborhood in a little sign. If we were able to, at certain locations, I know at 29th and Sheridan, we have sort of a little bulge, if you will, in the right off of the off of Sheridan, that maybe it's becomes part of a traffic calming device, so that when you enter the city in a neighborhood, you're going around a small median, maybe it's 8 or 10 feet in diameter, but you're slowing down, you're seeing a Welcome to Wheat Ridge, maybe it has a neighborhood connected with it, it's small in scale, something along those lines. I'm just not sure that I'm up to handling a 10-foot, $35,000 sign in a lot of locations. I mean, there are probably a few that would be appropriate for, but.
Ms. J?
I'm also looking at that. Looking at the size of these signs around the city just seemed a little overwhelming to me and more bragging than it felt like community to me. And I'm also wondering, I like the idea of the separate areas, which is known to make people feel good about their area. But I'm also wondering that if we use some of those larger signs, if we couldn't get a double whammy out of them, and instead of welcome, or City of Wheat Ridge, that they would say, like say one at I-70 and Kipling, that area, City of Wheat Ridge, our album, logo, and then 2 miles to the recreation center, or Greenbelt down the street, or something like that. Use it as a directional piece so that it advertises what we have, as well as that acts as a indication that you are in Wheat Ridge. I like the extra value that it gives to this sign program.
Ms. Davis?
So I have just a question. So if you're thinking, okay, sky's the limit, would this be a recommendation to where all the signs would go?
What we did is we took a look at each of the locations where we believe there's significant entry and exit traffic to the city. And then you see the one spreadsheet that we gave you. We showed you the actual traffic, and we had those ranked more or less so that bang for your buck, you'd have more folks seeing the sign
So,
with that area. So
okay. So I have a question.
we're looking, and again, the scale was so that we felt it was very readable for the traveler, and it was dependent upon the speed, of course.
Okay, so I have a question. So like 2A on 27th Avenue in Kipling and 2B on 26th Avenue in Kipling, why would we have two signs,
One or the other.
one or the
Giving
other?
you
Okay,
options.
so that's kind of what I was asking, is if it's one or the other or all of them?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Pronto, based on some of the comments from council, could you incorporate these locations with a monument sign / information type sign that would be smaller scale, traffic calming device, possibly, like Mr. Reinhardt's mentioned, incorporate some of those comments into these locations? Or are these not really good locations for neighborhood markers or traffic calming?
Some of them we can. What we did was we looked at each location at the available right-of-way, and so we didn't take a look at trying to incorporate an island into any of the locations. So we could take a look and see if there's any place that we could incorporate an island, even if it means moving the curbs out to make one work. So we could look at that, and we could come back with a simpler sign. The part of the cost of this is that aluminum fabricated sign, similar to what we have out at Kipling, is a fairly expensive design, and we had planned on lighting them as well. So we were going to use LED lighting, so it was going to be a sign similar to what you see at Kipling. If we're not going to go that route and try to keep something simpler, non-lit, of course, we can drive the cost down.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yeah, one of the things, and I meant to talk to a couple people about it, I actually think that my vision of what I was thinking may not actually be the same as this program at all, and then maybe they're two separate programs, I don't know. But the one thing that I've been hearing, and again, it's just to District 1, and I don't know, I know that at least in some places in District 2, this issue comes up. I'm not sure if the streets are as many cut-through potentials in the other parts of town, but I've been hearing sort of an increase, and I gather it's cyclical, in sort of complaints about cut-through tracking, and the mayor indicated to me there was a time when we had a program for determining where and how to put traffic calming devices in place, but it sounded fairly convoluted. I was wondering if you could brief me on that. The purpose of this line of talk is that I wonder if in some of these areas where we're trying to mark the perimeter or not, we could go for a traffic calming device that created enough space for an identity signature feature or something like that.
And we can do that. The neighborhood traffic calming program that we had was fairly extensive and was quite involved, because we needed all of the input from the neighbors as to whether they wanted it and where you're going to put the feature and all those kinds of things. And as it turned out, the program developed to such a point where it required one full staff person, and then you have to, of course, fund whatever you're going to build. So we, I guess, 7 years ago?
During the 2000, yeah.
It was shortly after that. It was 2005 or 2006 that we eliminated that because of budget. Right. So we certainly could bring back some of that information for you to see what kind of funding you'd need to do that kind of program again. The problem with that, it was very labor intensive, because it required 3 to 4 neighborhood meetings to try to get consensus within the neighborhood.
I think that could be modified and shortened down a little bit.
But I think if the neighbors were willing to work on it, I mean, from what I know in our district, I think there's plenty of neighbors that are happy to go door to door and get signatures.
I think that the potential is there for a traffic calming device entry monument for the secondary, for the residential streets at the perimeter of the site that would make some kind of sense. And, I'm envisioning something not very different from Bud said, a 4-foot, 6-foot wide center median and, 15 feet long, back far enough that the fire truck should make the turner, but beyond that, seems like, Ames, Benton, and some of the others, Teller at the south end. Some of those have a potential that would be there. And I honestly just don't know the other districts well enough to know what the locations would be. But
Well, if you look around town, if you see the speed bumps or the islands, that was all part of that program that we had before. So I think Davis is right, and I think Bud's right. You could, and Kim, if you were able to take that program and scale it down and massage it and bring it back to be a different animal, you know, that's what it would entail. Mr. Turn your mic on.
Yeah, I had another, as I was thinking about this and driving around, when you go through a lot of our streets on the perimeter, and this is just a kind of a wild idea, let's say you drive down 26th around, you know, Ames, Benton, Chase, Depew, Eaton, Fenton, any of those streets, and on up to, you know, all the way to Wadsworth. Every street has a stop sign that looking into the city property is the back of the stop sign. You've got a sign, you've got a pole there. What if you took a little painted, you know, City of Wheat Ridge, you know, welcome to Wheat Ridge or something, just a metal sign, put it on the pole. So it's very unobtrusive, it's very pedestrian scale, it's colorful, it uses existing equipment that we've got. It gets us some, you know, when you kind of get into Wheat Ridge, you wouldn't need to do all of them, but you certainly could. You know, I can't think that a sign, you know, these are probably 30-inch stop signs, and so you could get by with a 2-foot disc on the backside, painted Wheat Ridge, put it up there, probably do it for $100 a unit or something like that. I mean,
and I've done that before. We put neighborhood watch signs there. Yeah. Again, we had the poles, and so it's how I've.
Yeah, I mean, it's
assigned neighborhood watch areas.
Yeah.
In that manner. Yeah.
And you could, you know, visualize the city, the logo that, you know, we've got on our pens. I'm looking around here for it now, but I don't see it handy. But you know, just give a little color to it. The poles there, you know, and that's just as another portion of identifying our city when you drive into it on sort of a low cost, but I think attractive feature.
I think staff's looking for some direction. Mr. Reynolds, do you want to make some kind of a, Ms. Davis?
So I just have a interesting, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's this way, but on all the street signs, we changed those to have like the little weed on them, and now it says Allison or Ammons or something, right?
Right. We went through a wholesale program about 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and we replaced all of our street signs with the white sign.
Yeah,
with
the little logo. So I guess the reason why I say that is because when I was campaigning, walking door to door and stuff, a couple neighbors would comment about the signs. And I mean, they're nice, but what they said was, you know, should you be spending money? So I'm just thinking about that with the stop sign. Do you need to really be spending money on that? Because when someone's trying to buy the house next door, they're not going to go, oh, what a lovely sign behind that stop sign. You know, so I just would, you know, I think it's a good idea. And again, if we had lots of extra money, but I just caution us because our street signs do say the little Wheat Ridge thing. Mm-hmm. So that would be my only caution.
And they're on those stop sign poles also.
Ms. J?
Absolutely.
I do want to see if there's any interest in including some kind of information about be it the green belt or the rec center or something like that, which would be such a plus for our city to saying, hey, we got one. You know, somebody going by, they say not only that it's in Wheat Ridge, but they have a green belt. I wonder where that is, and just kick up some interest in the amenities that we already have.
Mr. Pond?
I see that. I'd be a little bit careful about that in terms of there's a number of ideas that are floating around that might be congruent and might not be. I think Davis has already kind of made that mention about whether or not what he's thinking is even meshing with this at all. In some ways, I see a possibility, which is there's certainly opportunities and maybe even a need to deal with certain monument. And I don't mean the small ones, but the larger monument signs, as definitive entries to the city, especially in some of these high volume roadways that could make an impact and affirm for anyone that they actually have arrived in the city. I think that's maybe not to the level in terms of how many, but you probably could do just what this was meant to, probably, which is look at look at the priorities and the traffic counts and really kind of pick a handful and create perhaps a long-term plan for how you would implement, how you would raise, budget the money and do that. At the same time, I do feel like the neighborhood piece of it, I appreciate that as a concept. I think that it's another layer to this, perhaps. And then I'd almost kind of put your idea in there as well, Joyce. Which just means that this is not really hasn't been fully designed based on our comments, because I think it's what we're talking about is kind of a complicated signage plan, right? Really, that kind of looks at it's multidimensional, multi-layered. Traffic calming, neighborhood identification, city identification. Amenity, wayfinding. I mean, all of that stuff is all good. I think it's great, but that really that I think requires some thought and planning to put that together. If that's, and I don't know that it's probably not fair for us to say, hey, bring that back in a couple of weeks. I mean, that's a real effort, right? I mean, that's like, if we're interested in this, I think we need to ask, what that means for whether that could be self-performed by staff or whether it's even outside of that realm to do something like that, and if so, what would be the time frame and the cost to do that? Having said that, I mean, I think I like all of these ideas, but it's really needs to be designed.
There's two. There's a full continuum of things we can do here. Just by my experience with the Lowry, which is a 1,500-acre site. I don't know if it's probably smaller than one of our districts, but not by an awful lot. We had, there really are three different things happening here. One is entry monumentation. Second is a visual identity program, which sets a pattern for everything from benches to entryways to thing. And then the third is wayfinding, and that's Joyce's thing. And my experience, which is only one sample, so I'm not trying to, is that those were three identified separate tasks that were, and to be honest, we probably paid professional planning to do that more than it would cost to put the signs Bud wants to do at the entry. So there's we clearly don't have the resources to do a fully comprehensive and complete sign program for the city. We probably don't have the resources or want to spend the resources it takes to design it, since we have no ability to build it. So, all I was looking for in this was to start to build on the idea of creating a boundary identity, and I'm not sure that you have to design the end program to start the front end. And so I would go back to making a consensus, which you can take or reject, just to try and get to closure, not because I'm trying to jam any idea down anybody's throat, but to take a look at a smaller scale program which identifies cut-through traffic streets for traffic calming and a smaller scale individual perimeter monumentation program for our residential streets, and see if there's a consensus to ask staff to bring that piece of the broader question back. Do we
have a problem with that? Do you want to include your informational piece too?
I didn't, but somebody could amend it and suggest it. That was not where I was starting, because to me, to be honest, and not to disrespect the need, but you start down the road of a directional signage program, and all of a sudden you can't have just one of those. I mean, they gotta be lots, and not that there's not a need, Joyce. It's not. It's just trying to.
As an advertisement as well.
Yeah. So that I'm going to stand with my original consensus attempt.
Mr. Stites, question or?
Yeah, just comment that George and I feel that all signage in the city should lead people to District 3.
So that's an easy.
I think I've got the solution for everything. We could put bike racks up and lean the signs up against the bike
racks that we read Wheat Ridge.
Davis, would you mind just repeating yours again? Then.
Okay, the consensus is for staff to bring back an approach to residential street entryways with a two-scale traffic calming and small-scale monument program to go with those entryways. Mr. Pons?
Well, just for clarification, because I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree, although I'm still going to come back to the fact that ultimately there's some design intermesh that needs to happen eventually. And so for clarification, I would say that you're not asking for that to take the place of in how it performs this kind of this
No.
bigger package. Okay, so it's intended actually to be traffic calming and more
Use that opportunity.
use that opportunity, but it also to create a more neighborhood-based identification.
That's
okay,
correct.
thank you.
Does anybody have a problem with that moving forward?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So, I believe the program that used to exist with the traffic calming and all that, did that also allow for the neighborhood to pay for those things as well? Do you remember that?
It did ultimately. What we did is it was a fully funded city program, and then as we scaled it back, we went to a 50-50 program, and we found zero participation.
Ooh, I bet you I could get you a neighborhood. Okay. At least one.
So, Mr. Brown, does that make sense on the consensus?
Yes.
Even though you're like, won't be here in July, you'll remember? Okay.
It's in my notes.
If I can ask a question.
Ms. J?
Does that at all, and I like the consensus, but does that at all handle the perimeter problem? Or the original thing we were looking for,
No.
The larger scale.
the larger scale?
No, if we're looking here, then what we'll do is
We're
we'll go
dumping
out
the other.
and we'll try to identify streets that we believe have cut-through issues, and then you can add to that list, of course. We'll try to come up with some locations that you think are candidates, and then bring those back with some design options, and you can look at them.
If you have locations, why don't you just go ahead and email those to us so that we can make sure we got those included?
Okay. So if you have any locations, Joyce, send them their way. Okay, I guess, is that it? We're done? We're done?
So just to clarify, we're not going to be looking at a larger scale entryway monument sign. Okay.
Okay. Adjourned.
Do we?